Alright, so I'm over here at Shadows, and this video over here caught my attention. Because in the movie, we never see the door open that's containing the drex. We just see the guy get trapped and drex and killing him. That's all we see. We don't see any door malfunction opening. Nothing saying us how it got out. So hopefully this is going to answer a few questions, and I hope Shadows is going to supply what we need. Go check out Shadows. Give some love. Anyway, so let's just get straight to it.
Using things for me out of Jurassic World Rebirth was, how did the drex actually escape? Because in one of the opening scenes, we clearly see that it's still being contained. I mean, the door closes, sure, it makes its way into the airlock, but at no point does it try to attack the door, or does the door look ajar?
And we don't see any malfunctions.
It's closed. Therefore, the drex didn't escape on its own. So was
that a voice crack? Hold on.
Completely closed. Therefore, the drex didn't escape on its own. So was
Shadows, we caught you, bro.
There's something
nice little voice crack right there.
Play here. Did someone help the drex escape? Because obviously later in the movie we see the door wide open.
And it helped
the drex escape.
But I've seen a YouTube short with this showing like this guy like dodging bullets and shit. That YouTube short's pretty dope. It's freaking sick.
Because obviously later in the movie we see the door wide open. And it does not look as if the drex attacked
that's actually true. Someone must have opened it.
Looks like it'd been let loose. Well, in this video, we're going to deep dive and reveal the
could be the guy that wanted the DNA. He could have done it beforehand.
Point to the shocking truth behind the drex's terrifying escape. And immediately, I'd like to address something here. And I know what you're probably thinking. Well, surely if the power went down, the doors would open, right? They'd be easy to open. That would be a massive security flaw in Jurassic World Rebirth's facility. I mean, if the power goes out, why would
if the power goes out, I'd assume it stay locked until there's power to actually open it. So there's no way to open it until there's actually power to supply the opening.
All the enclosures
big brain words.
Open.
Yes,
that does not make any sense at all. If the power went out, the doors would stay closed. I mean, you have extremely dangerous animals in them. So if the power does go out, it's highly unlikely that that caused the door to open. But that was my initial thought, because we know that the power.
They didn't do. It said reboot during the movie scene. Whatever. During the movie, it said rebooting in that scene. So the power was clearly off and it was trying to get back on. So the power was off during that. So we clearly saw that the doors were closed and not opening while it was off. So we know they already had that in their system.
Well, it was cycling every
but I do think someone opened
because the
it.
power was initially off when the cast and crew reach the abandoned facility, and then the power comes back on. But that would not cause the doors to open.
The power
so we're going
off.
to rule that out immediately, which makes this video and the drex's escape even more confusing and potentially sinister.
Sorry about that.
Now, I know by saying that, immediately you think someone let the drex out, right? Well, who? I know it almost seems wild to think, but let's look back at the start
that's
of
the
the
only
movie.
logical solution.
We know the drex is contained, and inside its enclosure, there seem to be several people letting off shots. I mean, gunfire. They had armed guards.
Oh shit, I didn't even see
this
that.
Obviously sparks the drex outbreak scene, although it doesn't actually escape. The lady still manages to maintain it in its enclosure, and judging by the look of all the scientists in that location, they're all running away from there. There is no one in their right mind going to open that pen. Well, anyone who worked for InGen at that point in time. But just like in the original Jurassic Park, the dinosaurs didn't escape on their own. They had help, remember? Dennis Nedry is the one who basically turned off all the power. Yes, he worked for InGen, but he was also a double agent and decided to work for Biosyn in stealing them embryos. We all know how that turned out. Could it be the same thing that happened here? We know that this flashback scene was in 2010. We know that because in the beginning credits, it basically says 17 years in the past from 2027. And at that point, Jurassic World was open. And are you telling me at no point did anyone even consider stealing them embryos from Jurassic World? Biosyn, perhaps, who already tried to do so from the original Jurassic Park? That is an option. But what evidence do we have? Well, believe it or not, there's actually multiple pieces of evidence which can string this together. And there's multiple scenarios which could have happened with the drex. We know Dr. Henry Wu goes on to work for Biosyn. We literally see him in their labs. He's the one who created...
That guy, he's behind every single movie. All the mutants and the dinosaurs, he's behind every single one. Henry Wu, from the first movie to this one.
Created the locusts. Essentially a double agent, right? So at 2010, Henry Wu was way involved with InGen, Masrani Global. He's the one who was creating all the hybrids. And you're telling me he wasn't involved in the drex's creation? I mean, he was the one who initially came up with the first
He was definitely the
hybrids.
lead scientist or something.
I'm sure he was the guy who created the drex, right? And let's
Must
not
have
forget
been.
our combat-obsessed comrade, Rick Hoskins, who was obsessed with letting the raptors loose in a live test environment. Perhaps he decided to open the door for the D-Rex to see how it would conduct itself in an open environment and if they could use it for a weapon. Now, obviously, that's pure speculation for Vic Hoskins, but Dr. Henry Wu, during the collapse of Jurassic World, he literally takes a helicopter off of the island to go and work for another person and then goes to work for Biosyn. Henry Wu was extremely shady. Now, I'm not saying he's
always been the bad guy.
D-Rex, but he definitely knew of its creation and could have sold that information on to someone else, a competitor, potentially Biosyn. Now, this is where things get extremely interesting because I want to talk about what we see in the movie and how it backs this theory up. And not just the Biosyn theory, but potentially the US military. And this is where things start to get wild.
The Mosasaurus is
See,
so
not
dope.
long
It was
after the
massive.
guys land on this new island and make their way to the facility, they come across a downed helicopter stuck up in the trees, very much like the initial scenes we see in Predator. Remember that? Now, when I watched this in the cinemas yesterday, I took special notice of the markings on the helicopter and the environmental storytelling, which I'm pretty sure most people would have missed. You see, the horrible corporate man finds the helicopter first, but he's looking down at the ground and he picks up dog tags. Dog tags. We all know where they come from, right? Military soldiers / operatives. At first I thought, oh, that's a bit odd.
I mean,
and then it pans
wasn't
up
there
into the
movie?
helicopter.
One of the movies
and on
before
the
this also had
side
that,
of the
didn't it?
helicopter bears a striking symbol, markings. That marking right there bears
Captain
resemblance
America.
to the US
Oh.
military markings. You know, on this Huey helicopter.
Well, I'm not from America,
Not only
so I
that,
would
they're
have no
bearing
idea about
firearms. Now, we know that isn't out in the ordinary because
That's
we
a
see
Glock.
the people in the lab firing upon the D-Rex, so we know they would carry firearms. But the presence of dog tags and this seeming US military helicopter started to get me thinking, why would the US government be there when it was obviously InGen controlled? And obviously what they were probably doing
Funding.
was highly illegal. And not only
Either the
that, how
army
would
or
they
the
even
government
know
was
its
funding them.
existence?
Has to
And
have
how
been
would
that.
this even play into the D-Rex? Well, it's pretty obvious. During the fall of this island, this secret island,
I must say, this scene is one of the best in the movie. The Titanosaurus is, damn, it's so majestic. It's so cool seeing them. They're so massive, bro.
numerous
Damn.
animals
So
were
sick.
loose into the wild. This is prior 2010, right? There were no dinosaurs out in the wild at this point, but a Mosasaurus, several Spinosaurus, a Quetzal seemed to escape
And so what's up with people saying several? I know it means more than one or a few, but just say like 4, because it was literally like 4. So
from this island. I mean, the Mosasaurus was out in the ocean along with the Spinosaurus.
Yeah, what?
You're telling me no?
that is true. It is out free in the ocean, but why the heck is it staying so close to the island? Maybe because of the Spinos, they made like a mutual agreement, but the Spinos can't go that long in the water, maybe. Because they don't live in the water. I don't know. But I would think the Mosasaurus would probably leave. It's got the capabilities, it's free to do so, but I don't know what's keeping it so close to the island.
One noticed this?
Kinda weird.
Well, obviously they did, and the US government noticed this. That is initially how they were aware of the island, and then fast forward to 2027, they're still aware of the island then. I mean, they would know dinosaurs were on there, right? Probably this dangerous D-Rex. You telling me they wouldn't have investigated prior to this? Of course they did, but they decided not to go back, because here is exactly what happened. You see, shortly after the fall of the
Laid down to
secret
us.
facility, the Mosasaurus gets out along with several Spinosaurids. Reportings of this happen. Very shortly after their escape, the US Coast Guard and military going immediately to investigate. They find this abandoned facility, InGen logos plastered all over it, but at this point they're still conducting their investigation. They land, find the abandoned facility, and obviously when they do so, they find the abandoned D-Rex in his pen. Now, several years wouldn't have passed at this point, few weeks max before the US military were involved, maybe a month, the D-Rex would have sustained itself in its habitat. Well, its enclosure.
How, though?
I mean, the film even tells us that the
Wouldn't it
colossal dinosaurs...
And assume its habitat would be, obviously, what's the word I'm looking for? Not secure. Secure, obviously, but I mean, like, kept away from everything else, like, seclosed. Is that the word? Secluded. I wouldn't imagine it'd be, maybe they would have plants inside, but we didn't get a good look inside because it was all foggy and red and shit, so we didn't see inside, so we don't know if there was plants, if there was any sort of food inside. Speculation, obviously, but somehow maybe it's something in its DNA allowed it to stay without food for a long period of time, but I don't know. I do find this theory interesting, though, the army.
they're looking
Would
for
make sense.
can live 100 years
I don't know.
plus. And this D-Rex was absolutely massive, so his lifespan wasn't a problem. We can only assume
It's
its
pretty huge.
metabolism, but the likelihood is the US military found this facility, found this D-Rex
Oh, so that T-Rex is
enclosure,
dope.
and opened the door. absolutely massive, so his
Rare is
lifespan
enough.
wasn't a problem. We can only assume it's metabolism, but the likelihood is the US military found this
This T-Rex. I was so disappointed that we didn't get to see this T-Rex fight the D-Rex. I had such high hopes hoping that would happen. But I also believe, I said this in the video, I do think them showing a little bit of the Mutodon, the D-Rex, this giant T-Rex. I think they showed it so little because they might make a sequel. And so they're going to make another movie, but then it's going to focus more on them. Because they focus a lot on the humans in this movie. Which I mean is fine, but if you make another movie and you focus a lot more on the dinosaurs and the mutants and shit, then please do so. It's going to, like Godzilla, focus on the Titans. It's just that easy.
facility,
We don't care about the humans.
found this D-Rex enclosure and opened the door. This would explain why the door was open, not forced ajar, destroyed. Someone opened it. It was the US military.
I mean, you can only assume
but
the
we're
D-Rex
not
would be
done
strong
just
enough
there,
to
because that
break
doesn't
it.
explain why the D-Rex just stays around this enclosure. Did you notice that it never once showed up prior in the movie, or any indication that it was anywhere else? Or
Plot. There has to be plot. The directors wanted it to be little, maybe to keep it mysterious or something, not to give away much about it for a future movie, hopefully. Otherwise, if that's not the case, then they screwed up big time.
on the island.
It was a good
seems to
movie, don't
only
get me wrong.
live At this
But they
facility.
didn't give enough of the
I'll get onto
D-Rex.
that though, so don't panic. Let's continue with the military right now, because obviously we have this downed helicopter. Now it's quite easy to say that the D-Rex can and does destroy helicopters. We literally see it in the movie. But did it destroy the helicopter we actually see with the guy?
No, we saw it
tags?
catch a helicopter.
Highly unlikely. And
Which
there's
is crazy.
one prime suspect for that. The Quetzalcoatlus, right? That could have easily attacked
Quetzalcoatlus.
the helicopter, and that's how the helicopter goes down
Quetz
away
is
from
crazy.
this facility. That's the only logical explanation. Unless the
The
D-Rex
Quetz is so
took
cool.
a swipe at it when the Marines or Army men, whatever
I
you want to
actually
call them,
think
mission.
this
Unless
Quetz is
the
smaller
D-Rex
than the
took a
one in
swipe
Jurassic
at it
World, but I'm
when
not
the
sure.
Marines or
Jurassic
Army men,
World.
whatever you want to call them, leave the facility,
Something.
board the helicopter, and the D-Rex
I don't
takes
remember
a
all the names.
swipe at it, and it goes down just outside of the facility's location. That's possible, but nowhere near as likely as the Quetz. Our side of
this is
the
what I was saying
facility-
earlier. We can't see anything about its enclosure. We just see red, fog, mist, smoke, whatever. Just see its figure and this guy crying help, wanting help.
These
So we
locations.
can't
That's
tell
possible, but nowhere near as
how
likely as
what
the
it
Quetz.
used to stay,
Ah, but that's all
like, survive
assuming
on
now that
until
there
it got
was
released.
no shady involvement here. And you might be thinking, well, what do you mean by that? Well, as I said earlier, that's not assuming that Henry Wu or some other dodgy person in InGen sold this data to a competitor or even tipped off the government. Because let's not forget,
Of
it's not
course.
just the military which would carry dog tags or kit their aircraft/helicopter out in some type of military livery. Mercenaries would also do the same thing. Someone who knew of this island's and its inhabitants' existence could have easily have passed this data onto a competitor such as Biocen. Biocen launched a mission into this island to recover the specimens/data, and it all goes horribly wrong. Exactly like I
DNA,
described
you mean?
earlier. Except rather than it being
Sure.
the US
Yeah, data,
military,
yeah.
it's the mercenary group. Although the mercenary group won't explain why the Coast Guard, etc., are aware of the island and never went back to it. The D-Rex never smashed its way out of its enclosure. It was literally let loose. And the only reason
Like,
someone
what it was in? What's in there? Is that like a rock? What is this? Is that a tree? What is in there that could survive for so long without
would
being
let
released?
that thing out of its enclosure is if
This
A,
is so
they
cool.
never knew anything was in the enclosure, or B, they wanted to retrieve it. They wanted it to...
That is possible. Could have done a similar. They could have done a similar thing to what the Indominus Rex did. Like, it pretended to not be in its cage, like by hiding itself, and then by doing that, it fooled the humans to go inside and release itself. There, it was probably hiding somehow because it's massive. I don't know how it was hiding. It was hiding, trying to keep. I don't know, like just trying to hide, and then somehow people saw nothing. They opened, that thing came rushing at them, killed them all. They fled or whatnot, and then it got itself out. I mean, there's lots of different ways it could have gone. Maybe it just jumped through the roof. Maybe it's got superpowers. Maybe it can fly. Who knows?
leave the enclosure so they could capture it and transport it off of the island. Both of which play perfectly into my theory. But the one thing here, why didn't the D-Rex just leave this location? I mean, surely there'd be nothing around this area for it, right? I mean, it's
Okay, also, I just want to point out the first movie was so good. Although this scene here, I do think that there was a little weird. There's this fence at the back. The T-Rex obviously came through it, but later on in the scene, the car and stuff, they fall down there. Like there's a chasm there. So I don't. They made some sort of weirdness with there being ground, but then all of a sudden it's no ground. So it's a little weird thing that happened. But
been let loose,
it's not a
but
good
yet
movie.
we only ever see evidence that it stays near this abandoned facility. Why? Well, isn't it obvious? We first see the D-Rex in the future with our gang and the protags actually in this enclosure. It doesn't abandon its enclosure. It decides to just live in there, and that's probably where it's been its entire life. It's made the enclosure its home now, its nest. So it never really leaves the location. We can also assume that there's some type of automatic feeder. It would still be operational because we know power does return
actually
to that
impossible. I didn't even think of that.
Several hours or so. Now, obviously, after a period of several years, they probably return to that facility
how did this guy not get swept away? This water should be quite strong. How did he not get swept away there?
There probably wouldn't be any feed left in there. But we can assume for a good while it would have enough to sustain the D-Rex. All the D-Rex then has to do is...
D-Rex also having one of the best eyesight. How the heck did it miss that guy? What a...
Go out locally and hunt the fauna and all.
That's why it will always stay in bronze.
The other dinosaurs, potentially them titanosaurs. Now I know a lot of people say nothing hunts a titanosaur. It's too big. This is the Jurassic World universe, and even the paleontologist guy, the museum guy, actually says that there are other predators in the world which hunts them. We're not going by real world logic here. This is Jurassic World. So the fact that he says that in universe, that D-Rex probably would be hunting them titanosaurs. If it does need to sustain itself anyway.
Imagine, but I mean, its bite force probably wouldn't be that strong because our teeth are, our jaws probably wouldn't be that strong.
Or bashed in, and
maybe it breaks his leg and then goes for the head. I don't know.
Answered that. It wasn't the power. It didn't just open itself magically. Someone opened it, and that someone was a military organization, whether mercenaries or from the government. It's hard to really say, but that's how the D-Rex escaped its enclosure.
That's possible.
There was a sinister undertone, and the storytelling was there. We only had to look for it and connect the dots. And that's what I did for us right now. And if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe. And check out all my other videos. Check out my review if you want and see my initial thoughts on the movie. Did I enjoy it or not?
Check out my review.
And don't worry, I've got plenty more Rebirth content coming up. Subscribe. You're not going to want to miss any of this.
Make sure to check these out.
Massive thanks to the YouTube members and InGen security team, DVM Wannabe 1018, Hammer Time, and our Jurassic CEO, Joseph Frost Ghost. Thanks, guys.
Nice.
And hang on. If you came across the D-Rex out in the open, could your day get any worse? You bet Jurassic can. Catch you later.
I don't know. Okay. I definitely agree that the cage, its cell, was opened by someone else. Whether it be military, government, whatever. I think it could have been the guy that hired the Scarlett Johansson's team or whatnot to get the DNA. I don't know. I mean, it's possible he sent someone or hired... I mean, he said he had tons of money, so he could have hired the military to go beforehand and they failed. So now he went to search for the mercenaries, Scarlett Johansson and the other people. I can't remember their names, the thing. And I went to hire them to get the DNA because he hired the military and they failed. So there's many possibilities, but maybe we'll figure out what how it really happened later on. But the speculation is pretty good. But anyways, make sure to go check out these videos. Like, subscribe there. Check out mine, like and subscribe on me, and I'll check you guys in the next one. Peace out.